Welcome. Check it out with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Ben Newton, who is the Director of Product Marketing at Sumo Logic. Hi, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Welcome. Welcome to the show. I'm delighted to talk to you because you actually have a podcast show yourself, Masters of Data.
That's right. I'm not used to doing this on video. I had to comb my hair and take a shower today.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to go into that, but let me just introduce Sumo Logic first for those who don't know. What do you tell instead of me telling? What is Sumo Logic?
Absolutely. We're, on one level, we call ourselves a machine data analytics platform. Really what that means is that we monitor, troubleshoot, and secure our customers, their key applications, their mission critical application. Now, what that really means is we did this big survey last year about customer experience. And the way I like to think about it is that it's really all about helping our customers protect their customer, the experience of their customers. Making sure that the application performs well, making sure that they don't lose their data. There's nothing you can do to destroy your customer experience like losing your customers' data. So really, in my mind, it's all about helping our customers make their customers happy.
Right. And data is everywhere, and there's more and more data than ever.
Exactly. So we suck all that data up and then help our customers make sense of that. And everything from people running gaming platforms to e-commerce to running big sporting events and watching how people are consuming the video. There's lots of different use cases for it. And it's always been exciting that way.
Yeah, and so it's not like every data in a corporation. It's more like critical data.
Absolutely, from their mission critical applications. So watching what their customers are doing, watching how things are performing, making sure that their customers are getting what they expect out of their application.
You do product marketing.
I do.
You've been doing product marketing and product management actually at Sumo Logic. So what's the difference now? Why did you make that change from product management to product marketing?
Well, I did product marketing a little bit at my previous company at BMC Software. And, one of the reasons why I originally went into product marketing was that, I was in sales engineering for a while, which is a great, kind of a career starter for any one from a technical background, because it, basically helped me learn when to be quiet and how to listen and how to interact with customers and how to explain things in a way that, connected with them. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. But at one point, I just realized I had collaborated on some white papers and with who was our head of marketing at that point at Blade Logic, which got bought by BMC. And then he moved into marketing at BMC, and he said, "Why don't you come over and try this?" And then I ended up really liking it. And then a few years in, I just realized that I wanted to go full into the cloud. Sumo Logic is a cloud native solution, so I wanted to go find a solution that was totally in the new era of software as a service and cloud, and I thought that was the future. So I started looking for companies. Long story short, I found Sumo Logic, and I ended up getting into product management at first because I'd always wanted to do that. Because I think in some sense, one of my analogies is everybody talks about putting that product marketing puts the lipstick on the pig. At one point, I wanted to, but the thing is, and as a sales engineer, I was parading the pig at the fair. But I think the product management, that was my pig. I was raising that pig. So, but then when I really got back to it, I liked being back in product marketing, designing the lipstick for the pig. But at the end of the day, between the two, product management is a lot about listening to customers and pulling the ideas together and figuring out what the right thing is to do, and then getting that actually out the door. Product marketing is a lot of I end up doing a lot of the same things. It's just on product management, you sometimes end up being you face engineering more because you're trying to ideate, get a product out the door, whereas in product marketing, you end up being the connection to sales and to the market. Right. But at the end of the day, I end up having a lot of the same conversations. Sometimes we talk about outbound and inbound. Product marketing is almost all outbound, right? Because you're talking to the market, you're talking to the customers. Whereas product management, I did more inbound stuff where I was talking to more internal stakeholders. And you do less of that, I think, in product marketing.
But in order to do all the talking, you actually have to have product content.
Yes.
So someone has to actually put that in writing and create the whole message and the content for the sales team, for the partners.
Absolutely.
Team. Is that what you now do also?
Absolutely. When the thing is with a startup, when I was at BMC, there were teams of people that would do things, and you would hand things off, and it was a lot of siloed functions, just because of the size of the company. Whereas at a startup, and having been at Sumo Logic for 6.5 years, when I joined, it was only several dozen people. I don't even remember how many it was, but it was definitely less than 100. you had to do a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. So in product management, I was actually doing a lot of product marketing.
Technical content.
Yeah, I wrote technical content. I talked to customers. I gave presentation. I did sales enablement. So effectively, when I moved to product marketing, I just stopped doing some things and started doing new things. Mm-hmm. So, I was already writing blogs and writing content and doing all those things. What I started doing was thinking more about demand generation and about, how we were communicating on the website, which I didn't really spend much time thinking about before. And like how we do, digital ad campaigns and demand generation campaigns and things like that. So the whole
funnel and the conversion along the way.
And I wasn't thinking about that as a product manager. Product manager, I was more about like, here's my product. How do I communicate about that?
Do you actually do the ROI measurement of the spend on the marketing, and then what is the return on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're always trying to improve that. That's something as we learn, like how you measure and where, because that whole funnel can be pretty complicated sometimes. Yeah. But, absolutely. As when I first started out, it was more just about how many MQLs you're generating, how many, marketing qualified leads. And now it's, are those marketing qualified, how are they actually transitioning to opportunities, which then transfer into proof of concepts, which then get closed. And then, do those customers upgrade? Like as a company, we're tracking the whole thing. But as marketing, we feel like we're definitely responsible for, along with sales, for, all the way from, a lead all the way to close one. It's not like it's their job to close it only. Like we have to work with them.
Is there a success story you want to share?
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that was fun for me going into marketing was that I wanted to try some new things and some new ways to get out to customers. So there's a couple of things to be done. I mean, one thing is that as a smaller startup, you tend to be single. There's a lot of single people doing even if you have a big title, you're probably an individual contributor. Mm-hmm. VPs and directors and everybody has to do the work. But as you grow, one of the things that happens in the organization, you start to silo. So, one of the things that I've been really excited about is we've really been focusing on something we call integrated campaigns. Mm-hmm. And really what that is all about is saying, okay, for this product area, that's the person we want to get to. Mm-hmm. Okay, now how do we get to that person? So, and we've tried different things like, creating like animated series that, kind of appeal to kind of the site reliability engineer that's one of our customers, and how they think and really what's been fun about it is really trying to understand that human and communicate to that human. In product management, a lot of what's the struggle is a lot of times you get wrapped up in features, like I'm creating this knob, this widget. But really, at the end of the day, integrated marketing is all about these people have pain. How do I address that pain? And then how do I kind of carry a story all the way to the end? Mm-hmm. And I think we've, and it's at least the first time in my career where we've been able to fully integrate that, where we go all the way from top of the funnel, get the people in the front door. How do we get them interested in Sumo? How do we get them to the first meeting, to a proof of concept, all the way to actually get them to close a deal and thinking about that entire customer life cycle and actually trying to address it.
Yes.
And usually, any other time I've done this in the past, it was always like bits and pieces all over the place.
Right. So now you have more visibility through the entire journey.
Yeah. And we've seen, preliminary, we've seen, in certain areas, like double the rates of conversion at certain stages than we were seeing before. So, I mean, we think that it's working pretty well so far.
And is it also using your own technology that's giving you all this data visibility?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So part of the thing is, I mean, just like anybody else, we use the tools that are out there that people are going to, think about how they, about customers coming in and tracking them. But like one of the things that we can do at Sumo is that we call it Sumo on Sumo.
Sumo on Sumo.
Yeah. So, and it's something that we've been doing since I joined the company. It's always really interesting because fundamentally, when our customers come and use the platform, we'll get both anonymized and non-anonymized data about what they're doing. So a lot of times it'll be, we don't look at their data, we never do, but we can know that, are they having, how are they using the product? For example, as a product manager, it was a lot about, okay, I just released a product. Are they actually using the product? When are they using the product? For example, one of the things I figured out in product management is I said, okay, I want to experiment. We were trying out this new tool where it's like you get one of those little chat windows up in the product. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I want to do an experiment now. And I want to see if I put something in that chat window, do people actually adopt the product more? Mm-hmm. I thought that was going to be true, but I wanted to do it. So what I actually did is I I then did that experiment and then went into the product and looked for how people were using that. And then I saw this huge upsurge. So again, we had the data to prove that that tool was actually making a difference. And so our product management teams use it. Our, documentation engineering teams use it. So we use it for our own platform to figure if we're performing well. So all of our engineering teams use it for uptime, watching our, key performance indicators, our SLAs, service level agreements. Our security team uses it extensively to look for threats and understand what's going on in our application and also in the wider IT network. But then what I always find to be some of the interesting use cases, for example, our customer success team. So our customer support team will use it quite a bit as well, because obviously if a customer's having a problem, our customer support team are some of the most advanced users of the product because they'll go and look for problems and communicate with engineering. But typically the marketing team might not have used it as much. But what we're finding now is that there's a lot of things that we can find out, from a marketing perspective as well, because we're thinking about, okay, so when we do customer marketing, can we see what customers are doing in the product and then send them relevant things as they're doing those things in the product?
Right. What are some of the trends that you're seeing in working with a lot of customers and the marketing function that you're in?
Yeah, one of the things that you and I had talked about earlier, and I always am super fascinated with, is I think a lot of times there's a tendency in our industry in particular that we're selling operational tools and we're selling security tools, and there's a tendency to focus on the technology. It's like, okay, it's all about the right tools, and it is a lot about the tools. But I think one thing I've seen in my whole career is it's also about the culture. There's this trend that's been around for a long time called DevOps. So it was really fundamentally about getting software developers to hook up with operations people and try to take responsibility for the entire lifecycle of a product, not just, when I was starting back in the early 2000s, typically the developers were writing code on their laptops. The trope is, oh, it worked on my laptop, I'm good. And you give it to the operations people and they're like, what the heck is this? Like, I can't even, it's not even working. I remember in one of my consulting gigs for when I was working with the U.S. military, like we had something go down for 30 days. And it was mainly because the developers hadn't really tested it out. So there was a lot of, particularly in 2010, that's when DevOps really became big and people would talk about that. But what they've realized over time is that, in the beginning it was always people arguing about tools and stuff like that. But what they've realized is that it's very much about culture. It's like, because if you want to see those teams work together, there has to be a culture where they will work together. Do you have, bottoms up decision making? A lot of times there's things that you saw with agile programming on the developer side is like small teams working together that have actual responsibility for their own decisions. They own things, top to bottom. For example, at Sumo, if you have a development team that builds a product, they're on call for that product. If something goes wrong, they get woken up at 2 a.m. to fix it. So they're very motivated to write better code, right? And that's been going on for a long time. And the interesting about it, as long as people have been talking about this, it's still hard to do because you can buy all the tools you want, but if you don't make those cultural changes where you trust your people and you allow them to make decisions and you allow them to form teams and actually own things end to end, it's very hard to implement that. And recently what we've also seen is that you saw the developers who are close to the business, they're building the products, communicating with operations and kind of getting that ownership. Well, now what you're also seeing is that as a lot of customers are getting they're getting a lot more concerned about security for obvious reasons. Like there's all the privacy things, there's all these breaches recently. There was literally just one again yesterday with a credit card company losing, I don't know how many times my data's been stolen at this point, right? So there's a lot of sensitivity around that. So now you have this idea is I'm building a product and I have these two groups of people working together, but the security team's sitting over in another building that never communicates back. So you start saying, how can a security team get into this? And they've inserted security in the middle and it's DevSecOps. Yes. But the point is it's still culture. It's still culture. And one of the fun things I've realized in product marketing, and I get to talk to a lot of people, and you I think you mentioned that I had a podcast.
That's right.
And some of the people I interview on the podcast, it just keeps coming back to the fact that it is all about culture because it's all about people.
Yes. And
people struggle with change and they struggle to work together. And a lot of this is around how can we, help these people work together better. And what I realized too is it's part of a larger cultural movement Because if you look at it like post World War II, it was all about, top-down command structure, kind of like everybody was used to the military. It's
authoritative from top down.
Exactly.
Yes.
And like I do what my bosses and my boss and boss and my boss's bosses says. Whereas I think what we've realized in the last 2 or 3 decades is you've got to delegate things down and let people make decisions lower down the trees. So what I always find fascinating is you can see the same things that have been happening in manufacturing, like places like Toyota and I've read a story recently about Lockheed Martin and they had this group called the Skunk Works. I think they still do. And a lot of the things they were doing there about putting the engineers on the same floor with the people designing the planes, and then you see Tesla doing this, and all these different companies, they're doing the same thing as what we're trying to do over here with software development and IT operations. So because it's fundamentally just people. If you put people together and you have them interact, you end up getting a better product because they feel a sense of ownership together. Right. And at the end of the day, I think that's what's exciting about what I do in my field, is because I want to see my product, the product that I'm trying to put in front of people, actually help them accomplish a human goal, which is to work together better, give them a platform where they can actually collaborate.
Right. Let's talk about the podcast, because that's a great idea. How did you come about, and how has it benefit the company?
Great question. So one of the reasons why is I've always liked audiobooks for a long time. I was actually just pulling up my Audible record. I've been a member since sometime in 2000. So and I was listening to books on tape before that. So. And when podcasts came along, I'm an NPR nerd. I always loved listening to news and stuff. So I was very interested in podcasts, but I never thought about starting one myself. And when I moved over to product marketing at Sumo Logic, I was trying to think. It's one of those nice things when you change roles, you get a bit of a honeymoon period, and you can you're not tied down to a bunch of projects. And I was trying to, what can I do that's different? And I'd done a lot of thought leadership at Sumo. I always enjoyed doing that. But it's I don't want to keep, only writing blogs. I don't want to keep only doing video interviews like we normally do. So I said, well, what would it take to start a podcast? I wonder if I could start a podcast. So we started investigating it. Long story short, we went through a bunch of ideas. But what we really came down to is realizing a couple of things. One is that we could do it in a differentiated way that would stand out. Mm-hmm. And one of the key things we thought of is thought leadership. We didn't want to make a podcast that was just a vehicle for the company to push their ideas. We didn't want this to be about selling Sumo. Mm-hmm. We wanted it to be about giving back to the community. Yes. Because at the end of the day, and I think this is one of the key ways that marketing is changing, right? It's not about the hard push marketing. People are way too smart. Mm-hmm. If you want to increase your brand recognition and get people thinking better about your brand, you have to be more subtle about it. You have to actually give them something they want and actually have that contribute and actually have a constructive relationship. Mm-hmm. So we talked about it, and I got people on board to have an experiment. Let's just go and see if we can make something that's thought leadership. And so we there was a lot to learn, because there's a lot of knobs and things you have to do, and we had to hire a production company, and we had to get all this equipment. But at the end of the day, it really came down to going and interviewing people, which is what I really love doing anyway. It's I get to find interesting people with interesting stories. And in the beginning, I was trying to make it more about topics. I want to talk about this topic. I want to talk about this topic. What I realized is that now I first and foremost recruit people to be on the podcast.
And then you will find the stories.
Exactly. Because if you get passionate people that are passionate about a topic, and so with Masters of Data, what it really came down to is we wanted to talk about how people were using data in the industry. And honestly, it was a little hard at first, because people hear that and you're like, you're what? What do you want me to do? So I will give a lot of credence to the first people on the podcast. They stepped out on a limb, and some of them I knew personally, and they're like, we'll do this for you. But as we started getting guests in and people started understanding what was going on, I think part of the hard part is you don't see this much in corporate America. You see this in NPR does this really well, or American Public Media, or you see some crime podcast or something like that. People understand that, but then they look at a company and are like, why are you doing this? This doesn't fit into my normal, view of what people should be doing with podcasting. So I think there was some of that where there was pushback and I don't really understand what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But I think as people have started to see it come through, then now, once you see, we've had 50 episodes now. Nice. So once you see, thank you. And once you see a couple dozen episodes, then people are like, oh, I get it now.
Right.
And it makes a lot of sense. But it's been a blast because just the people I get to talk to is just
and
fun.
It's so much learning. I mean, like what I do, I also enjoyed it. So I totally relate to what you're saying. So.
No, and I was thinking exactly that because it ends up being just about the medium because I think it's all about talking to people, listening to their stories, and what I really enjoy is that once you get past that first little hump where people they're a little reticent, people end up really opening up, and I think that one of the things that's interesting about podcasts too is I think sometimes because they don't have to be on video, they will sometimes open up even more. Right. I don't know what it is psychologically that does that.
That's a sense of anonymity.
Anonymity, yeah, absolutely.
Behind not having the camera in your face.
Yeah, absolutely, and it feels more like a conversation because I think one of the perfect examples. There's a couple new podcasts that have come out where, in particular, Conan O'Brien got into podcasting, and he's been doing this show for years and years, and he got into podcasting, and seeing that different, it really kind of brought it home in my head because when you're in front of a camera and you're doing a show, it's a performance, and there's certain things
you're a bit more conscious that there's an audience.
Yeah, exactly. There's a camera there that I can see. But I think when you're doing podcasting, even if you're right there with somebody or over, some sort of a conference link, it feels more personal. It feels like you're actually having a conversation. My goal is always to make it feel like when you're in your car, or you're jogging or working out or whatever, you feel like you're in the middle of a conversation. Right. You're just sitting there.
Yes. You're far away, but you're very intimate in that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But it's been a lot of fun.
Well, this is a great conversation with you. I appreciate you being here, Ben.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me.
There you have it, folks. Ben Newton from Sumo Logic.